We've got one working service, so let's see how we can refactor what we built for this service into a construct. I'm going to copy and paste what we've got here, and we'll just call this the service construct. Then we're going to rename the class to service construct. We're going to change it to be a construct, and we're going to set up some props. So let's have an interface for the props object. We'll change the type over from stack props to that. Constructs don't take, the constructor doesn't take a third argument, so let's take that off. And then let's see what we can keep the same and what needs to be different. So we'll have a scroll through our task definition. We would probably add customizability for fields like these if this were a real example, but this is just for us building together, so we'll leave that for now. We need to change the directory that the container is coming into. So I'm going to make that a parameter, and we'll call it container path. And let's pop that over there. Okay, and we're going to need some different pieces in the service section. I think we'll leave that cluster name hard-coded with this project. Obviously, if you're doing many different projects with many clusters, you would have to change that. But depending on your organization, you might even keep this in here and have the right value set in the right account. So you just have one cluster per account, for example. So we're going to have to change our, we're not going to change the lookup tag, but we're going to have to change the service. So let's give this a parameter called service name. And we'll pop that into here. And I think that might be it. That might be everything that we need to change. So let's add in the fields that we're going to need. So we're going to need a service name. And the other one we said was a container path. So let's pop those in there. And then we can do props.container path in there. And props.service name in here. Lovely. I will clean up some of these imports that are no longer required. And then we can move our stack over to use this construct. So here we are. Let's take these out, take this lot out. I'll tell you what, I'm going to copy that path statement just for ease. And get rid of the rest of it. Have a tiny little stack here, and then we can say we would like a new service construct. Going to attach it here. Then we've got our two values, so we've got our container path and our service name. Now we've changed a load of logical IDs, so when we deploy this, it's going to get recreated. So let's get that going now. Just before we do that, I'll tell you what, let's see if we can aid in a little bit of manual cleanup. I'm going to pop into the console. I'm going to pop into the console and we'll go to ECS. We'll find our ping service. And I'm just going to manually update this service here. And I'm going to scale it down to 0 tasks. Because otherwise it will play havoc with us trying to delete our service and delete the cloud map namespace. So we'll just give this a moment to shut down, see if we can get that task there. So we'll wait for that to stop. And it's gone. Lovely. Let's run our deployment in the ping service. Oops, I need to go back up to the root of the project. I had to do a bit of manual messing around to get that to deploy okay, but it is deployed and it's there. So let's take that construct and pop it into a package. So I have a empty package here ready to go. And let's just copy that construct file, pop them in there, and let's see if we're missing any dependencies. So let's check if those are present as peer dependencies. They are, so let's give it an install. Okay. And that's all fine. And then we can export it again from the index file here to make it a little bit easier to consume on the other end. Let me get this a little bit bigger so we can see it properly. Okay, and let's just run a test build. We can check the package name. Yep, that's with our namespace value that we are linked up to code artifact for. So let's do a publish. Oops, I'm going to have to log in again. All right, and with that done, I think we are ready to publish. Okay, we've got our package. Let's install it in the ping service. We can delete the service construct, and then it will say, whoa, you've not got a service construct, but now we can import it from our package. And then let's go over to the Pong service, which we've neglected so far. We've not done anything in this one. And we're just going to replicate everything across. So we're going to have a Pong service stack called Pong service stack, and we're going to need the container over here. So let's take that across. And let's rename this to be the Pong service. And then in the Docker file, we've got anything in, that's all good. Index.js will need to be contacting the ping service because they're going to contact each other. All right, let's copy the stack across. Whoops, wrong folder. And we're going to rename that to be the Pong service stack. And that's going to get renamed as well. That's great. The service name is now Pong service. The directory for that container is now Pong service. I'm skipping over these bits quite quickly because we're just replicating everything we've done on the other side over here. There's nothing new in what I'm doing at the moment. All right, and that's the other install. Lovely. Cool, so let's set the AWS credentials and then hopefully we can, oh sorry, I've got to fix that import there. Hopefully we can publish this, deploy this service. Oops, and I haven't done an npm install. And maybe there's something gone wrong with the node modules. Let me just clear that down and we can run again. Great, and let's deploy. All right, that's deployed. Let's go over to ECS. Actually, let's check the namespace first. Let's see, have we got the ping service? Okay, we haven't got the ping service. And what I think has happened is, with me manually messing around to get that deployment to work, I think I've deleted it and we've got to put it back in. So let's find the service discovery service. Here it is. And let's find where that is referenced. Whoops, I didn't copy the right ID there. That's that one. Okay, so we're going to take service registries out and we'll just run that through CloudFormation just to reset our ping service. We'll give it a moment for the change set to generate so we can have a preview. All right, that has been updated successfully. So let's just undo those changes we made manually in the template. And we will pop back to update. We will replace the current template. We will upload one. We'll choose the same file again with those service discovery bits back in. And we can again wait for the change set just to see a preview. Lovely. And let's give that a submit. Okay, that's the updates done. Let's go back to our cloud map namespace, and we've got two services. Now it's the moment of truth. Are our services speaking to each other? So let's go and have a look at the ping service, and let's find the most recent log stream, and we are getting an error. Okay, this is a bit of an older one. Sorry, I think I may have clicked on the wrong stream. Okie dokie, here we go. So this is very recently, and we're getting a timeout error. So I wonder if we need to tweak some security groups. Let's have a look at our construct, and we can see how that is defined. So let's look for the service itself, and we can create a security group. And we've got to pass in our VPC, so let's pop that into a variable. And then we would like some rules. Let's have a look at our security group properties. So we've got two methods on here, one for adding an ingress rule and one for adding an egress rule. We're actually going to use the allow all outbound option, just because we are not going to filter the outbound traffic. So let's stick that on, and then we can do service security group dot add ingress rule. For the peer, we will go with pretty permissive option. So let's go for an IPv4 CIDR, and we'll have our VPC's CIDR block. And then what other options would we like for this? So we've got connection, description, and then remote rules. So let's have our connection, which can be port dot. It's going to have to be a custom one because we are using port 3000. So we'll say starting and ending at 3000. And then we'll add a description, allow service API traffic. Okay, so we've got that in there, and then we need to pop that into our service here. So in we go. All right, let's publish a new version of the service. And obviously this would be not just a sort of patch change in a real scenario, but we haven't actually released this construct to anyone else yet. It's just for our testing. So I'm just going to bump it up by, let's go for a minor version. And I think in reality it would probably be a major version because we are potentially disrupting traffic to the service by changing the security group. So we published that and it ran TypeScript build beforehand. So let's pop over to the ping service. Let's do an npm install with version 1.1.0, and we can run a deploy, and we'll go over to the pong service in the meantime. And then we will do another install for version 1.1.0, and we will deploy it as well. And we can let these run in parallel. Okay, with both of our deployments done, let's check out the logs. We can go and find the log group for the ping service. And we can see there is a very recent log stream here. Let's go and have a look at that. And there we go, we get the we did it. The ping service is successfully contacting the pong service. Let's go the other way around. Pong service, most recent log stream, and we did it again. All right, folks, so I appreciate that was a pretty long series of videos there for the real world example number 3. As a bit of a recap, we created a VPC using the L2 construct. I don't know whether I'd actually call that L3, it's got so much in it. We then created an ECS cluster and a cloud map namespace for service discovery. We exported some important information as SSM parameters, and then we consumed that information in a separate construct we made. We created a task definition for a Fargate service. We added a container to it using the Docker image asset to have it built and shipped for us. We set up some logging, a port mapping so we could access it, and an ECS service that would run it. That referenced the VPC using a lookup from the context, or sorry, using the context I should say. That might get us in a bit of a sticky situation sometimes if a dummy value is present, so we checked for that and handled it as well. And then we built up a cluster from the attributes that we found were important, again looking up the name with the context system. And then finally, we built a security group, added a rule to it, popped it into a Fargate service, and that is what we used in our two services, the ping and the pong services. So I hope that's been a bit more of a thorough example of how we can build some more realistic applications in CDK, where we're getting a bit more stuck into several components and working between projects. I'll see you in the next one.